It started almost a year ago. One morning, Emma just changed. No fight, no warning, no reason. She stopped touching me. Stopped kissing me goodbye. Stopped laughing at my stupid jokes. When I reached for her, she flinched. She said she was tired, not feeling well. A week later, she mentioned hormones. Said her doctor thought she had an imbalance. I believed her. I wanted to believe her. I offered to go with her to appointments. She smiled and said it wasn't necessary. Said she needed time to figure things out. So I gave her space. At first, I was patient. I brought flowers, cooked dinner, waited up late. But nothing changed. Then I noticed something strange. Packages from Victoria's Secret kept arriving. Lingerie, perfume, matching sets. Hundreds of dollars every week. She said it made her feel feminine again. Said her doctor recommended it for confidence. I wanted to trust her. But something in my gut twisted. Soon, she joined a gym. Emma never liked working out before. Now she was obsessed. 2 hours every morning, yoga in the evening. And she hired a personal trainer, Ryan. Ryan this, Ryan that. She talked about him constantly. He was helping her with her hormonal balance. I told myself not to be jealous. She needed help, I reminded myself. But the signs were hard to ignore. She started dressing differently. Tighter clothes, shorter skirts, more makeup. She said it made her feel alive again. Alive enough for gym sessions. Alive enough for girls' nights. But never alive enough for me. She began going out late. Said she needed social support. Came home at 2 or 3 a.m. Her perfume smelled stronger, unfamiliar. When I asked where she'd been, she said coffee shops. Who goes to coffee shops at midnight? She'd roll her eyes and say I was being controlling. So I stayed quiet. I started keeping notes. Every excuse, every night she came home late. She said she was too tired for affection. But she had endless energy for everything else. I tried talking to her. She said I was overreacting. Said I was making her feel guilty for being sick. Sick. She looked healthier than ever. The gym glow, the new clothes, the constant smile. It didn't look like sickness. It looked like someone falling in love with someone else. Still, I couldn't admit it. I thought marriage meant fighting through the hard parts. But I was the only one fighting. Every night, she slept beside me like I was invisible. Every morning, she woke up and left without a word. 10 months of silence. 10 months of excuses. 10 months of watching the woman I loved fade away. I didn't know it then, but the truth was already staring me in the face. I just didn't want to see it. The truth started to show itself by accident. I ran into an old friend, one afternoon. His name was Mark. We hadn't seen each other in years. He owned a small nightclub downtown. When I mentioned Emma, he froze for a second. Then he said something that made my chest tighten. She looked fine when I saw her last week. I asked what he meant. He said he'd seen her at his club. Said she was with a tall guy covered in tattoos. Said they looked close. Too close. At first, I laughed it off. Maybe he was mistaken. But the way he looked at me told me he was. That night, I couldn't sleep. I waited for Emma to come home. She arrived past 1 in the morning. Smelled like perfume and alcohol. I asked how her girls' night went. She said it was calming. Said she went to a new coffee shop with Sarah. Coffee shop. At 1:30 a.m. The next morning, I checked her purse. Found a receipt from a fancy hotel restaurant. Dinner for 2. Expensive wine. The same night, she said she was too tired for intimacy. My hands shook as I read the time stamp. I knew something was wrong. But I needed proof. Real proof. So I started paying attention. Every night she left, I noted the time. Every morning she returned, I checked her clothes. The smell of cologne that wasn't mine. the lipstick slightly smudged. I went through her credit card bills. Dozens of transactions at restaurants I'd never been to. Hotel bars, boutique shops, ride shares to strange addresses. When I asked, she always had explanations ready. She was out with friends, helping someone through a breakup, shopping for self-care. Every story was polished and practiced. Too smooth. Too rehearsed. The more she talked, the less I believed her. Then came the breaking point. I was doing laundry and found a hotel keycard, embossed with a golden logo. The same hotel from the receipt. When I confronted her, she didn't even flinch. Oh, it's from Maria. She's going through a divorce. I reminded her she didn't have coworkers anymore. She froze for a second, then smiled and said I must have remembered wrong. That smile, it wasn't guilt. It was arrogance. She thought I'd never question her, that I was too blinded by love to see the truth. That night, I sat in my truck and stared at our house. The house I built. The house I thought would be our home. And I realized I didn't recognize it anymore. I didn't recognize her anymore. Something inside me cracked. Not from anger, but from clarity. She wasn't sick. She wasn't confused. She was lying. Every look, every excuse, every I love you was a lie. I knew then that the woman I married no longer existed. Only the mask she wore remained. And I was done pretending not to see it. I didn't confront her right away. Rage wouldn't help me. I needed precision, not emotion. So I started planning quietly. I'd built a business from the ground up. Strategy was second nature to me. This was just another project, personal, not professional. The goal was simple: uncover the truth. The method had to be flawless. The next morning, I called my attorney, David. He'd handled contracts for my company for years. When I told him everything, he didn't sound surprised. Don't act yet, he said. Collect evidence. You'll need more than suspicion. He told me about what proof would hold up in court. Text records, receipts, photos, anything that showed deception and misuse of funds. It made sense. If she'd spent my money on someone else, I could use it. That same afternoon, I contacted a private investigator. His name was Tom. He'd done background checks for me before. I told him I needed answers, real ones. He didn't ask why. He just said, "Give me a week." I gave him Emma's schedule, her car details, her gym address. He nodded, calm, efficient, like he'd done this 100 times. I felt sick inside. Hearing someone to follow my wife wasn't what I wanted. But it was necessary. I couldn't live in the dark anymore. Meanwhile, I started protecting myself. I opened new accounts under my business name. Moved some savings into secure holdings. All legal, but untouchable by her. I copied every document we owned. Tax returns, bank statements, deeds, insurance papers. Everything went into a locked safe in my office. She would never know. At home, I acted normal. Made coffee for her. Asked about her doctor visits. Listened to her fake concern. She had no clue that every lie she told was being recorded. I bought a small digital recorder and kept it in my pocket. Whenever she explained her girls' nights, I hit record. She lied with such confidence, it almost sounded true. Almost. 5 days later, Tom called. His voice was steady, professional, but his words hit like bricks. "She's not even trying to hide it," he said. He sent photos to my email. Emma walking into an apartment building. Not the gym. Not yoga. She stayed for hours. The next day, dinner with the same man. Holding hands across the table. Smiling like a woman in love. On the third day, she brought an overnight bag. Didn't come home until the next morning. Tom kept it all documented. Times, dates, photos, everything. He even recorded conversations from the balcony. Emma laughing, saying I was easy to fool, that I'd never check, that I was too trusting. I listened to her voice and felt my heart go cold. It wasn't love anymore. It was war. And this time, I intended to win. Tom's reports kept coming every day, each one worse than the last. Photos, receipts, audio, everything I needed. Emma and Ryan were everywhere together. Hotels, restaurants, his apartment. She wasn't even careful. She thought she was untouchable. She laughed about me in his arms, called me boring, called me naive, said I would never find out. Every word burned, but I kept listening. Pain was fuel now. I wasn't going to explode. I was going to build a plan. Revenge, not rage. I began connecting dots. Ryan wasn't just a trainer. He had a history. Tom dug deeper and found it all. 2 previous gyms. 2 affairs with married clients. Both times he'd been fired quietly. He was a parasite, feeding on trust. I knew exactly how to deal with men like that. I made a few calls. To gym managers. To insurance partners. To people who cared about their reputation. Anonymous tips about a trainer violating policy. Photos of him kissing a client. Within a week, Ryan was fired. No warning, no appeal. He lost everything. His reputation, his paycheck, his access to her. Emma came home furious that night. She said Ryan was being treated unfairly. I said I was sorry to hear that. She didn't notice the smile I hid behind my coffee cup. The next domino fell soon after. Tom discovered Ryan was still legally married. His wife had been suspicious for months. I sent her copies of the receipts and photos. No note. No explanation. Just the truth. 3 days later, Ryan's wife filed for divorce. Took their house, their savings, everything. Emma started to panic. Her calls went unanswered. Her texts unread. She stayed up late, packing the living room. I asked if she was okay. She said she was processing emotions. Right. Meanwhile, I tightened my finances further. Closed joint accounts. Moved business funds out of reach. Canceled her cards one by one. All under legal protection. She had no idea the storm was coming. Then, I used the receipts again. Every dinner, every hotel, every Uber ride. I compiled it into one file. Printed copies. Marked dates. Labeled expenses as affair costs. $47,000 in total. It wasn't just betrayal. It was theft. I mailed that file to Ryan's gym, his wife's attorney, and a few investors he owed money to. By the end of the week, Ryan disappeared. Rumor said he skipped town to avoid debts. Emma thought he was ghosting her. She cried for days. Told me she was emotionally unstable. I listened, calm and polite. Inside, I knew it was almost over. All I had to do was wait for her to feel safe again. Then I would pull the last thread and watch everything she built on lies collapse. I waited until she calmed down, until the panic faded and her guard dropped. She thought the worst was over. She thought she still had control. That was when I made my move. Friday evening, she came home smiling again. Said her therapy was helping. Said she felt like herself for the first time in months. I almost laughed. I told her I wanted to talk. She looked relieved, even hopeful. She thought we were finally reconnecting. I told her I'd been researching her condition. I said I'd found something interesting. Then I pulled out a folder from the table drawer. Her eyes brightened for a moment. Then confusion. Then fear. I laid the papers on the table one by one. Credit card statements. Highlighted purchases. Lingerie. Hotel dinners. Spa packages. Thousands of dollars. I said, It's strange. Women with hormone issues don't usually buy designer lingerie. She froze. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. Next, I placed photos on the table. Her with Ryan at the restaurant. Her entering his apartment. Her laughing in his car. Her hand in his. The color drained from her face. I told her I wasn't finished. Then I pressed play on my phone. Her voice filled the room. Laughing. Mocking me. Saying how easy it was to fool me. Calling me too trusting. She dropped to her knees, crying. Where did you get that? I told her about Tom. About the recordings. About every lie she told being documented. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't have to. The silence between us was louder than anger. You used my money, I said quietly. $47,000, every penny on your affair. She tried to speak, but I cut her off. I don't want your excuses. I want you to understand what happens next. I handed her another folder. Legal documents. Divorce papers. Filed that morning. Her hands trembled as she read them. You can't do this, she whispered. I already did. Her eyes filled with tears. She begged. She said she'd end things with Ryan. I told her it was already over. Ryan had left town. His wife had everything. He was broke, hunted by debt. And she was alone. She tried to grab my arm, sobbing. I stepped back. The house is mine, I said. You have 30 days to leave. The car, the phone, the cards, all gone by Monday. She screamed that it wasn't fair. That she made a mistake. I told her she didn't make one mistake. She made hundreds. Every lie was a choice. Every secret a betrayal. I looked at her one last time. Told her she picked the wrong man to deceive. Then I walked out, leaving her crying on the floor. The night air felt cold. But for the first time in months, I could breathe. The divorce moved fast. Faster than anyone expected. 4 months from start to finish. Her lawyers tried everything. Emotional abuse. Coercion. Claims that she signed under pressure. None of it worked. The evidence was too strong. The prenup too clear. The recordings destroyed her case. Her lies were written, spoken, and recorded. Even the judge seemed disgusted. When it was done, she left with almost nothing. $3,000 and her clothes. The house stayed with me. The company, untouched. The BMW repossessed. The cards canceled. She had nowhere to go. She moved back in with her parents. A tiny apartment on the other side of town. I heard she got a retail job at the mall. $12 an hour. Old car. No savings. Meanwhile, I kept building. Sold the old house. Built a new one. Bigger. Better. Every wall, reminder that I survived. 6 months after the divorce, I started dating again. Met a woman named Claire. She owned her own accounting firm. Independent. Strong. Didn't want my money. The first time she offered to pay for dinner, I almost forgot how to react. It felt good to breathe around someone honest. No secrets. No manipulation. Just peace. Emma tried to reach out a few times. Through mutual friends. Through long, regretful messages. She said she'd changed. That she'd learned her lesson. That she wanted to make things right. One day, she even showed up at one of my job sites. Her hair was shorter. Her face tired. She said she'd do anything to fix what she broke. I looked at her, really looked, and saw nothing left of the woman I'd loved. Only guilt. Only desperation. She wasn't sorry for the pain. She was sorry for the consequences. I told her that. You're not sorry for what you did, I said. You're sorry for losing what you had. She cried. Begged. Said she'd never stop trying to prove she changed. But but I'd heard enough promises before. I walked away without anger, just clarity. People said I was cruel, said everyone deserves forgiveness. Maybe they're right, but forgiveness isn't free. It's earned through honesty, not regret. Emma never gave me that. She gave me deceit dressed as love, lies wrapped in sympathy. I used to think revenge meant destruction. Now I know it's survival. I didn't destroy her life. She did that herself. All I did was stop saving her from the consequences. And when I finally closed that chapter, I realized something simple. Peace doesn't come from getting even. It comes from letting go. And I let go the day I stopped believing her tears. Sometimes I think about everything that happened. The lies, the humiliation, the nights I couldn't sleep wondering what I did wrong. But now it all feels distant, like a story that belonged to someone else. I learned that love without honesty is just illusion. That trust, once broken, never rebuilds the same way. Emma taught me that. Painfully, but completely. I don't hate her anymore. Hatred keeps you tied to the past. And I've had enough chains for one lifetime. Now my mornings are quiet. Coffee tastes better. The silence in my house isn't lonely, it's peaceful. I still believe in love, but I no longer believe in blind faith. If someone wants to stand beside me, they'll have to earn it. Not with promises, but with truth. Because I gave everything once, and I watched it turn to ash. Now I build slower, stronger, and for the first time, I'm not chasing happiness. I'm living it.